Hello, readers, and welcome back to another rendition of Queer News, where I bring to you news coming from all over the world to keep you educated and updated on LGBTQ plus rights. September was very chaotic for me, so I haven't released a proper book related video in a while, but stay tuned for autumn recommendations in the next couple of weeks. But let's get started. We are first going to Asia, in Hong Kong specifically, where the government shot down a bill that was introduced to comply with an order by the city's top court. Following months of debate, the Legislative Council rejected the bill that would have given limited rights to couples whose marriage or civil union was registered overseas. Opponents said it threatened family values, while advocates said that the government was out of line with the majority of residents who supported same sex relationships. While the bill seemed to offer only the bare minimum of protection, it was still being regarded as a tremendous step forward for equal rights in the country. Stepping over to Africa, the country of Burkina Faso, which we have talked about in relation to the oppressive Ugandan and Kenyan regimes, was once regarded as a relatively safe haven for queer Africans. However, on the 1st of September, Burkina Faso's Minister of Justice and Human Rights, Edaso Rodrigue Bayala, announced an amendment to the Code of Persons and Family, which came into force in 1990, establishing for the first time a prison sentence of between 2 and 5 years and a fine for those who promote homosexuality. Citing respect for cultural and family values, the Minister of Justice said that homosexuality will be detected in people who show bizarre behavior. The new law has sent shockwaves through the country's queer community. Until now, homosexuality did not appear in any legal document in Burkina Faso, which made the country a relatively safe space where the gay people from across West Africa could live without fear of criminalization or imprisonment. This law also applies to non nationals found to be engaging in homosexual practices. In a lot of these countries, the push for sovereignty and nationality has equal more danger to queer people, unfortunately. And talking about oppressive countries and oppressed territories, we see the story of a trans refugee in Ukraine who grew up on the Crimean Peninsula, who was already living under Russian occupation. Vladimir Putin invaded and annexed that Ukrainian territory in 2014. And 6 months into the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Lilia was under house arrest for posting pro Ukrainian messages on social media. Her crime was equal to terrorism in Russians' eyes, and she had an ankle monitor to track her movements. She knew early on that she was trans, but she could not attempt a transition, of course, and even speaking about it would put her in danger. So she decided to cut off her ankle bracelet and fled. She went through Russian and Belarus with her Ukrainian birth certificate, and she relied on a network of volunteers that she found online. With her fight to freedom, Lilia avoided a fate that other queer Ukrainians have been unable to escape, including torture, torment, public humiliation, bodily injuries, and sexual violence. Human rights advocates are advising all queer Ukrainians, especially activists and anti Russian advocates, to leave the occupied territories. While I usually discuss broader news regarding countries in general, I wanted to give you a more personal story today through Lilia's testimony because we can't forget about anyone in our struggle to be free. And in the US, Trump's madness continues. The administration has asked the Supreme Court to let go ahead with a ban on passport stating the gender identities of transgender and non-binary citizens. Justice Department lawyers argued that the government could not be forced to use inaccurate sex designations on identification documents. The government is seeking to reverse a policy introduced by the administration of the former President Joe Biden in 2022, which had allowed passport applications to choose X as a neutral sex marker on their passport applications and to self-select M or F for male or female. An estimated 1.6 million people in the US identify as transgender, while 1.2 million identify as non binary, and 5 million are intersex, according to UCLA's William Institute. As a result of the order, a number of transgender people have already reported receiving passports with inaccurate gender markers. A federal judge blocked the Trump administration policy in June after a lawsuit from non binary and transgender people, some of whom said they were afraid to submit applications. An appeals court left the judge's order in place. The Trump administration recently asked the Supreme Court to put the order on hold while the lawsuit plays out, so things are still up in the air in a way, and we will have to see what is going to be done. Going back to Europe, the EU's leading rights agency has said that Europeans who do not fit the typical definition of male or female are grappling with an alarming rise in violence. The findings were based on around 2,000 responses from people in 30 countries across Europe, all of them identifying as intersex. It found that since 2019, the rates of violence and harassment against intersex people have sharply increased, particularly among people who identify as trans, non binary, and gender diverse, far outpacing the increases reported by others in the LGBTQ community. The survey also found that more than half, 57% specifically, said that they had been subjected without their informed consent to surgery or other medical treatments to modify their sex characteristics, while 39% said they were put through so-called conversion practices aimed at changing their sexual orientation. The rights agency links the rise to a wider climate of increasing and persisting intolerance and bigotry, as well as intense online hatred campaigns that had instrumentalized the LGBTQ community. The report echoes organizations across Europe who have long warned of politicians using parliament, political rallies, and media interviews to fuel anti LGBTQ sentiment and normalize discrimination across the continent. This is another instance of internet discourse and social media's effects on actual laws that are being passed around all throughout the world. Online wars seep into reality and really hurt people more and more. Talking about Europe, in September, almost 2,000 Catholics in rainbow attire took part in the first officially recognized LGBTQ pilgrimage to Rome as part of the Vatican's Jubilee year. Coming from 20 countries, pilgrims attended prayer vigils, masses, and other activities, but did not get a private audience with Pope Leo. His predecessor, Pope Francis, who died in April, did not change the Roman Catholic Church doctrine regarding the LGBTQ community, but made overtures in a decree in 2023. These included allowing priests to bless same-sex couples, a move that angered conservative Catholics, notably in Africa. While Pope Francis had said that homosexual people have a right to be a family and that they are children of God, nobody should be thrown out or made miserable over it, Pope Leo, who was elected in May, has yet to address the LGBTQ community publicly. Honestly, I both admire and pity queer people that are staunch Catholics or religious in general, because at times it truly must feel like a toxic relationship where you are clinging to a partner that treats you terribly, but you hope will change. Lastly, we remain in Europe, where a Slovak constitutional change promotes anti-LGBTQ national identity, whatever that means. The country's parliament approved the change, which states that male and female will be the only recognized genders, and the school curricula must respect the cultural and ethical positions set out in the constitution. The vote marks a sweeping change for the EU, as a national law takes precedence over EU law, posing potentially a challenge to the functioning of the 27-nation bloc. After the vote, the leader of one of the opposing party said the amendment will hurt the people of Slovakia and call into question Slovakia's place in the EU and its legal space. This amendment, much like Burkina Faso's new bill, cites the need to protect cultural traditions and the spiritual heritage of ancestors in order to restore common sense. Very dangerously, it also states that Slovakia's sovereignty regarding cultural and ethical questions should override EU law, and even a center-right party MP warned that the constitutional change could jeopardize EU funds for Slovakia and undermine its membership of Europe's top right organizations, the Council of Europe. But it doesn't really seem that the right cares about it, not yet at least. So there you have it, everything regarding queer rights and news that were released in September this year. I'm always hopeful that we will get better news, but at least we stay educated. And as always, follow the channel and the Instagram page to discuss more, especially if you're interested about books. Bye bye.